Good afternoon. Welcome to the second module of capital investment and financing decision. In the module 1, we had talked about your cost of capital and the sources of long-term finance and the various capital structure decisions. So, soon after discussing this cost of capital and the long-term sources of finance, then we go to the planning of your investment, long-term investment. So when we talk about a long-term investment, it basically means that you invest a huge amount of money in a place and where you are supposed to get a benefit over a long period of time. So that is something that we call the investment decision in the typical sense. And when we talk about getting the benefits over a long period of time, so it means the period could be as long as 20 years. So which means that it is basically a on forecasting that how what kind of benefits will accrue to us over a long period of time. Sometimes these benefits are quite certain in nature; it can be predicted with some degree of certainty, and at other times the prediction of these benefits, it becomes very uncertain. So and then obviously the decision making becomes more difficult. Now, to start with, we'll talk about the simpler scenario where we're investing a certain sum of money, and then the benefits that are going to accrue to us over a period of time is going to be certain in nature. So, we'll be dealing with the certainty of these cash flows. Now, before that, when we talk about this investment, so or the capital investment or the investment, so basically what I am trying to say is I am putting my money into a specific area of operation, and that many times many people refer to that specific area of operation in a technical term. They refer to it as a project. Now, when we are talking about a project, so what could be and why is a project really important? Now, because the project is, and if you have to manage the investments properly or the projects properly, it will become a key driver of the progress of the economy. Because you see, the development of any economy or the country is the outcome of the good investment processes. Now, the in project, what could be described as a project? Now, a project could be an organized program of predetermined group of activities. The program is organized, and these are all predetermined, and these are not routine in nature. For example, there are certain things that we do on a routine basis, like our daily chores and all that, but there are certain things that we do which are not in the nature of routine. So these projects are the non-routine kind of activities, and they have to be completed within a given period of time. So this is how we probably can organize the investments that we are talking about into a project. Now, as I said just now, it is a basically a non-routine, non-repetitive. That means these are not regular kind of activities. You don't do them time and again, so they are not repetitive. And most of the time, these are one-off undertakings. For example, suppose I'm thinking about investing in a plant or building a plant or buying a machine. These are kind of I don't go on buying technology or machines or setting up a plant multiple times. I do it as a one-off activity. And usually, and when we talk about the time involved between one project and the other one, this could be variable. Sometimes it could be 5 years, sometimes it could be 1 year. So these are all discrete times, and the each project or each investment activity has a different goal, a technical goal, different financial goal. So every project is unique, and these are non-routine by nature, these are non-repetitive by nature, these are most of the times done once in a lifetime, and the time that we undertake these things are quite different. They have different financial goals, they have different technological goals. So the how we are going to manage these kind of activities that we call projects, that is going to be of utmost importance, because the if we can be effective in managing the projects, then that will really be contribute positively towards the growth of either the economy or the organization as a whole. Now, and when I'm trying to go for this project management, what is it I'm trying to do? I'm basically trying to achieve the performance objective, and I'm trying to I mean my objective of my effective project management is that there should not be any stoppage of production, there should not be any stoppage of any scheduled activity. So we have to avoid the scheduled slippages, and at the same time every activity is undertaken with a certain amount of budget in mind. It has to be done in a way that I don't overshoot my budget. All my activities are completed well within my norms. So there are no cost overruns, there are no shortages, there are no slippages. That is how I have to manage the project. Now the objectives of the time, cost, and performance. These are the three main aspects of project management. That of effective project management, I mean to say that the project, the performance has to be I mean, it has to be very good. The cost of the project should not be as per the budget and should not overshoot the budget, and it should be completed on time. So if a project delivers these three things, that is performance, cost, and time, then we can say that the project management has been effective. Now the to do all of these things, we need to have a really good understanding of the what is the meaning of a project, how many kinds of a projects are there, what should be the normal cycle in which a project is conceived and it is terminated. So, and more technically, like what are the various concepts of project management and all that. We have to have a basic idea of all these things. So this particular class, today's class, is going to discuss all these things in a brief way. That is the types of project, the nature of project, and the project management systems. So let us talk about the nature of a project. Now, when we talk about the nature of a project, now what does it mean? That the first is the purpose. Now, see the project. What is the purpose of a project? It is usually one-time activity, as I have told you. It is a why am I doing that activity? Because I need to achieve a desired end result. So that is the and that desired end result is the purpose with which I am undertaking this particular project. Now, what we can do, we can divide into subtasks that must be accomplished in order to achieve this projected goal. So the project is your project is a very complex one, okay, and the objective is to be time, cost, and performance. So the purpose of the project is to deliver these three things. Now, the every project has a life cycle. Like any organic entity, like a human being, like a tree, we have a life cycle. Similarly, like what does happen in a life cycle? Then there is a introduction phase, there is a growth phase, there is a build up phase, there is a decline phase. So similarly, in a project also there is a life cycle. So for example, you have a build up, then you have the peak, and then you have a beginning of a decline. So every different project, suppose you're talking about a constructing of a house, that's a different kind of a life cycle. Suppose you're talking about let us say automation project, then that will have a different kind of a life cycle. Suppose you're talking about a development of a software project, that's a different kind of a life cycle. So every project will have different life cycles, and the phases of these life cycles will be different for different projects, depend on the nature of activity that you are involved in. Then you have something called the single entity. Now the project is considered as one entity and is normally entrusted to the responsibility center, while the participants of the projects are many, but we give the charge of the project to one particular center or one particular person. So it is usually the project is considered as a single entity. Now there are a lot of interdependencies because the projects interact with other projects which are being carried out simultaneously by the firm, by the parent organization. Now the project also interacts with the parent organization standard procedures. The various functional organizations such as the marketing, finance, manufacturing, etc., they will also interact with the project. The marketing department will be involved with the from the beginning to the end of the project. Manufacturing also will have a major kind of an involvement. So there will be interdependencies among all the functional departments as well as with other projects. But it is the job of the project manager to keep all these interactions clear and maintain appropriate relationship with the internal as well as the external groups. Then the another nature of the project is that they are unique. Now every project has some elements which are unique by nature. Now you will not see any two construction activities which are similar. Suppose we are talking about a construction of a house in one location vis-a-vis another location, these are also not same. So it is I mean the various projects will have their unique features. Now there will be different kind of risk involved, there will be different kinds of schedules, there will be different kinds of cost structure, there will be different kinds of expertise involved in the project. So these are unique. So the manager who is in charge of the project, he has to understand this uniqueness of the project and he can then play to his strength basically. Then the project is a very complex one. There's a high the degree of complexity differs from project to one. Some projects could be very highly complicated, some other projects could be less complicated, but some degree of complexity will always be there. For example, the technology survey, the choice of appropriate technology, the procuring of appropriate machinery and equipment, the hiring of the right kind of people, the arrangement of the financial resources required for your purpose, the execution of the project on time, and whether you're going to use organizational resources or extra organizational resources and all that thing. So these things are play a key role in deciding on the complexity of a particular project. A project is a successful completion of the project hinges on the level of teamwork that you have. As I said, project could be manned by one person, but many people are involved in delivering the project. So the point is that the teamwork has to be absolutely perfect for the project to be successful. Then the risk and uncertainty which are inherent in every project has to be dealt with appropriately by the the project manager, because the risk and the uncertainties and different phases of life cycle will keep changing. In the introduction, in the build up phase, it will be different. In the working out phase, it will be different. In the decline phase, it will be different. So the project manager has to identify these specific challenges and then deal with them. Every project is customer specific. Now why are we doing, for example, if you talk about the software companies, they always perpetually talk about projects, because depending on the client or the customer, depending on his requirement, a particular task is undertaken and ultimately it is delivered to the client. So every client has unique requirements and accordingly you have different projects. So every project is specific to a client. For example, if you are talking about let us say the library automation work of a university. Now the library automation work it could be considered as a project because it involves a set of specialized activities from where you will go from the manual system of operation to the automated system of operation. So here the requirement of the client is basically the university's library department. So the requirement is that the books, the availability of books, the issue of books, they have to be tracked by the should be able to be tracked by the system or the ERP. So that is the requirement of the client. Based on that, you will have a specific project. So these are very customer specific. Now we talk about the classification of a project. Now, the classification could be done in several ways. Now, one of the ways of how you can classify a project is it could be industrial, it could be non-industrial. Now, if it is for doing for an industrial project, for example, setting up a plant, buying of machinery and all that, could be industrial project. If you are talking about non-industrial project, it could be healthcare projects, it could be educational projects, it could be irrigation projects, soil conservation projects. These are all like your non-industrial projects. Then, depending on your location, it could be within the country, it could be on a global level. So if it is within the country, then naturally it is national and vis-a-vis the international project. I think this is self-explanatory. Then based on time to completion, time required to completion, so there are certain projects which have a stipulated time to be completed. So you call them a normal project. But there could be could be projects which have to be done in a very short span of time, and this will be urgently needed. So even if you might end up with spending more than required on this project, you need to do it. So these kind of projects are called the crash projects. You based on the ownership, you could have a public or a private or a joint. For example, if the government is undertaking the project, then it could be a public project. If a private sector enterprise or the owners of a business, they are undertaking a project, it could be a private project. And we could talk about a joint sector project, which could be, we can say that these are the PPPP mode, so public private partnership mode. So these are kind of joint projects. Based on size, again, we can have the small, the medium and the large. So as for today's classification, any project which has the plant and machinery requirement investment is up to 1 crore, like till 1 crore, we call it a very small project, as a small project. Now, what is a large project? Where the plant and machinery investment is more than 100 crore, we call that as a large project. Now, anywhere between 1 crore to 100 crore, we classify that as a medium project. Now, again, as per the need of the organization, you could have like the projects which are expansion, which are, for example, if you are in a steel business, you are currently producing 10 tons, then you want to go to 30 tons, then it is an expansion project. So you are basically expanding your existing business. Your existing capacity you are trying to increase, so that will be called as an expansion project. Now, you could go for a diversification project as well. Now, meaning that suppose you are in the steel business, but you are now going into mining, then it will be called as a diversification, because you are going away from your core business activity and you're thinking about investing in that. So this could be called as a diversification project. There could be modernization, like around now I was talking about the library automation. Now, if you are going from manual to automated system, then you can talk about modernization. And you can also talk about replacement. For example, you have been using a particular machine, which is a very high cost machine. Let us say the machine was purchased at a rate of 50 crores some 10 years back. Now that is coming towards its economic life, end of economic life. So what would you do? You need to replace that particular machine. So, and you know that the replacement is going to be very costly, because that time of point of time 10 years back, the machine cost you 50 crores. Today, you never know. You have to scout the market for these things. Now, the point is, this kind of, suppose your technology is becoming old, your machines are becoming old, you need to change them for better technology, better newer machines. So this kind of decisions are also called as your projects or investment decisions which are under the head of replacement. For example, even investing in the R&D, the research and development, that also can be called as a project. You can place it under the modernization kind of a project. Suppose you are thinking about running an advertisement campaign, and that involves substantial cash outflow, that also can be called as a project. You can probably keep it under the expansion project. Okay, so depending on what is the end result of the project, what is the end purpose of the project, you can classify them into these four kinds of projects, apart from the obviously the other calculation that classifications that we just saw. Now, a few minutes back, I was talking about the project life cycle. Now, as I said, the project life cycle goes like this. Let's say the somewhat S shape of a curve. Now, the most of the projects go through that, but the shape could be different, the duration could be different. Now, the project is born. When the project is born, it is called the startup phase, and the at that point of time you have to select a manager who will be in charge of this particular project. So he will assemble a project team, and he will gather all the resources that will be required, and he will organize the work program. Now the work then gets underway, and the momentum quickly builds. So you have a very when you are starting the startup phase, then all these things will be done. So at that point of time, you don't much of work is done at that point of time. But the as these things are assembled, the team, the resources, and the work plan, once they are put in place, then the momentum quickly picks up. Now the work gets underway, and the momentum quickly builds. And you make a lot of progress in this particular phase, which is called this phase of quick momentum. Now, this will continue for a pretty long period of time, this moment, because this is the time that you are building the things up, that you are delivering, trying to working things out, design, improving the designing. You are basically getting the project ready. Now, the it keeps on going until you know that I have reached some point of time. Then you talk about the finishing time. But the completion of this particular last phase of the task usually takes very long time. Why it takes very long time? Because the resources that you have gathered, now they are working together. They try to somewhat drag their feet, and probably it could be so many things you need to improve, you need to improvise. So in this kind of a thing, it usually the finish of a project, the termination of a project is quite slow. Now the pattern of slow, rapid, slow. So you start with slow, then you become rapid, then you become slow again. And it is really common. Now, if I give you an example of the construction of your own house, or if you have seen a construction of a building, now you could have seen that the initial phase of the construction process is really slow. You don't seem to really grasp what is happening in the first 15-20 days or 1 month or so, when the construction activities starts. You really see a result out of these activities. But once the plinth level is cast, then suddenly you see that the structure is coming up very quickly, day by day, and then the progress of the project becomes very, very visible. Again, when you go towards the completion of the house, then the finishing touch, the project completion, that again slows down. So because there will be other activities involved in the finishing of the house. So what happens now? Very minimal effort is required at the beginning when the project is being developed. Then once that hurdle is passed, like planning whether to take up the project or not, the activity rate suddenly increases, and then the real work of the project begins, and then you pull up more and more resources, and the basically the workers, more number of workers are assembled here. Now this rises to, and if you have seen, this is the time when there is a possibility of a cost overshooting of the cost could probably happen at this particular point of time. If you are not really careful during this quick momentum phase, there could be lot of wastage of resources at this particular point of time. So and then obviously you have to deliver the project. So in some cases the effort towards the end may never really fall to zero, because the team of the project or the some cadre of that particular group you can still maintain for the next project that might come along, so the from where the new project will emerge. Now the point is, this is how the project life cycle, more or less a stylized version of project life cycle, how it looks. Now the point is, what kind of a effort you give towards the project. Now if you look at this curve, which is the time distribution of the project effort, if you look at that particular curve, then you see that what kind of a time we are devoting to the so see the conception initially. If you look at the x-axis where I'm showing time and the y-axis where I'm showing you the effort, you can see that in the x-axis, look at the time that conception of the project requires. Now the conception, and then let me hover my cursor around that point of time. So you have the conception, and the selection happens here. Once it is selected, then you have to plan, schedule and monitor, and from here the work the you are devoting less amount of time here, but more amount of job is done here. Now see, here you are devoting so much of time, but your work achieved is this only this level. But in the second phase, once a planning activity is done, then the suddenly within less amount of effort and the time, this more amount of work is being done. So the you achieve the peak level, and then the evaluation and the termination of the project happens ultimately, where the efforts also gradually diminish and the results also gradually diminish. Now is it, don't you think it would give you really good comfort if you could predict with certainty, like suppose you're starting a project today, and you can really project or predict that what should be the performance time, what should be the cost goal, and when these things are to be delivered, when I can exactly do these things. So it is really I mean, you really want as a project manager that these things should be predicted well in advance, and maybe I should be able to do these things, but it is easier said than done. So this kind of a graph, if you know that this here I need to pick up my activity, here I need to slow down, this is just for your understanding. It is from the experience of so many project managers that this curve has been derived. But if you are dependent on this curve to really work out things and to predict your work effort, I think your project management efforts will take a backseat there. So the point is, it is not as easy to I mean, look at this graph and predict your work effort, because every project, as I said, is unique. But however, nevertheless, if you have understood the concept, if you have understood this is how things were done in the past, and this is how I have to probably approach my job, my project, then it will become really handy to help you out in your management efforts. Now, we come to the more technical term, that is the project management. Now, when I'm talking about the project management, now what is the now we have a fairly good bit of idea regarding what a project is, what are the natures of project, what are the different kinds of project that the organization undertakes. So, having understood these things, now we need to look at what is the project management. Now, by the process of this project management, now we know that management as such is a set of coordinated activities to achieve a end result. So project management must be related to the concept of the project management, I mean the management. Now it involves again a set of activities, a process of set of activities where you identify the various opportunities, you formulate the profitable project profiles. For example, at any point of time you might come across 5 to 8 different opportunities which might all look like lucrative to you, but on closer scrutiny you might find that some of the projects which were looking lucrative are not so profitable. So you need to scout these things, these ideas, and then you need to really formulate which projects profiles are profitable to you. So that then you have to, once you have found out that out of this 5 to 8 projects, these are the suppose 2 projects that look very profitable, because my initial analysis tells me that these projects are very could be profitable. So what you have to do is you have to arrange funds for them. Suppose there are 2 projects that you have zeroed in on, a project A and a project B, and project A is going to cost you, let us say, 15 crore, and the project B is going to cost you, let us say, 8 crore. Then obviously you need to arrange for this total 23 crore rupees. And see, when I'm saying 15 crore, 8 crore, these are all predictions. So it is not that you are just going to arrange for 23 crore. Maybe you can arrange for a 25 crore, because you never know. There could be some plus or minus in your prediction. There could be. So leaving the margin for error, you are now procuring funds for this implementation of these projects. Then you have to schedule the various project activities. Project A, as I said, every project is unique. Project A's schedule of activities, project B schedule of activities, the in charge of project A, the in charge of project B, the team that are going to assign, and the resources you are going to assign to project A, and the resources you are going to assign to project B, because you see the technical requirements of each of the project will be different. So you do all these things like identify the projects, formulate the profitable ones, procure funds for these profitable ones, schedule your activities. Why are you doing it? You are doing it in such a way that you can complete these 2 projects or the profitable projects within the best possible time and within the best possible cost, and so that you can monitor them after the implementation. So this entire gamut of activities is basically known as the project management. And What is the basic goal of the project management? It is once we are undertaking the project, your goal is, number one, define what is to be done. If project A is about replacement, so define what is to be done and ensuring that it is done. The old machine is scrapped, the new machine is purchased, and the new machine is performing as per your requirement or as you have desired it. The performance that is done, the performed as the desired within the time, and you are doing it within the budget approved to you. So the cost budgets are fixed through a modular work approach. Like you can compartmentalize your work. So modular work approach, using either you are going to use the resources available within the organization, or you can also manage the resources which are outside the organization. So you can still use them. So the defining what to do, ensuring that you do it, and that the performance is up to date, up to the level of satisfaction, that you're doing it within time, that you're doing it within the cost or the finances approved for that particular purpose, and your work is done in a scientific way, in a sequence, and that you're using the resource, all the resources available at your disposal. Whether the resources are available within the organization, if they're not available in the organization, you secure them from the outside the organization. For example, if you talk about a software development project, if the suppose you are going to do it in a particular computing language, then you don't have currently the resources in that computing language or that development software, the language that they write codes in, it is the resource is not available. Then you immediately hire manpower who is an expertise in that particular language. So you use organizational resources, use extra organizational resources, and complete the job that you have undertaken, the project that you have undertaken in time, within the cost, and with the utmost satisfactory performance. Then we say that the project management is effective. So this is the basic job of project management. Then you talk about the uh, obviously, as we know, any management activity starts with a planning activity. So likewise, in project management also we have this project planning. Now when we talk about project planning, now you see, why we need planning is, it is basically to facilitate the accomplish of an objective. Now the see we the organization, everybody at every point of time is always planning. We are all full of plans, but that hardly very few percentage of that plan really become dates. Now the planning techniques, whatever we are reading or we are going to read, now it should lead to accomplishment. So this that is the whole purpose of this particular planning. It's we plan well, but we don't execute. That doesn't mean anything. So when I'm talking about a project planning, it is basically, it represents a set of these six activities that I've shown you in a stepwise process from top to down. So it is basically a set of six activities. Now, what are these six activities? The first activity, as you can see on the slide, it is the preliminary coordination activity. Now, when I'm talking about preliminary coordination, where the various parties involved in the project get together. Now, who are the parties who are there in the project? Obviously, we are doing it for a client or for the end user or for the customer. You can name them anything. They are your customers, they are your end users, they are your clients, whatever you can call them. So, the clients and the organization and the various other resources, parties involved, we come together and we make a preliminary discussion what will be achieved. What we want to achieve, and basically this is what I want to do, and this is the project, this is what the project is all about, and who will achieve that. For example, when I'm talking about the library automation project of a university, who could be the parties who are involved in this preliminary coordination? See, this could be, let us say, the members of the library staff. It could be the faculty who is in charge of the teacher who is in, or the professor who is in charge of the library. It could be some of the students' representatives. It could be the registrar. It could be the vice chancellor. It could be the finance officer of the university, because all these are related parties. So you could sit down together to discuss that there are obvious problems in the current system of library management, where we are entering everything on the register, library register, and the book issue is also happening through the register. It is taking, now the university has big number of students, the student strength has increased, so doing these things manually is causing problem. We need to migrate to the automated system, because the automated system is going to be more beneficial due to the following reasons. All these preliminary coordination and discussion things will happen in presence of the related parties. Now, the preliminary plans, this serves as a detailed description of the various tasks that you must undertake and accomplish in order to achieve the objective of the project. Now, you see, the once you have decided that this is going to the project, the coordination, the automation of the library is to be the project, then you basically uh, in details describe the various tasks, because now they have the preliminary plan ready. Now the various tasks have to be delineated, and you have to identify that who is going to do what, and what you need to accomplish and who needs to accomplish what. That has to be done. Then obviously the two things more important: budget and schedule. So budget, you have to prepare the budget. This is going to be the budget for this particular project, and the work schedule that has to be done. Now, the budget and schedule, they have a direct how well the budget is prepared, and what is the detailed, what the level of the detailed schedule, that actually shows you that how well you have prepared for the project. If there is lack of it, it is a very ill prepared project. If it is a very detailed and everything has been taken care of, then it shows that the team is entirely involved in the work plan. Now, the next step is your, precise description of all the project status reports, when they are to be produced, what is to be, what the report should contain, who should prepare the status reports, to whom it should be submitted, and how many status reports should be, what is the periodicity of producing status reports and all that. This thing has to be discussed. I mean, it has to be pre-planned. And then once these things are put in place, then you have to talk about the plan must be developed, and which will deal with the project termination. That is explaining in advance how the project pieces will be redistributed once the purpose has been completed. Okay, so if you have taken human resources from this, various departments, they will go back to their parent department. So likewise, different kinds of resources that you have gathered after termination, what will happen to them, that also has to be a part of the planning process. Okay, now we talk about the initial project coordination. Now you see that it is really crucial that the project's objective is, whatever the project we are trying to design, the objective is to be clearly tied to the overall vision and mission of the farm. Now, if the project's objective and the farm's vision and mission, they are not compatible with each other, the project will only become a failure. Now, the senior management has to decide, like the farm's intent in undertaking the project, why, what the organization is trying to achieve by undertaking this particular project, outline the scope of the project, describe the project's desired results and end results to the all the stakeholders. The senior management has to do that. Now, if you do not have this kind of a clear beginning, then the project planning there is no purpose doing all this planning activity, because they are going to only go astray. Now, it is also very vital that your senior manager should obviously call an initial coordination meeting, and when this kind of a coordination meeting is being done, it is advisable that the representative of the top management should be present to indicate that the top management is really committed to the particular project. Now, what might happen in the meeting? The project is being discussed with sufficient detail, and the initial contributors develop a general understanding of what is needed. Okay. Now, the basically you touch base. Like for example, if the project is one of the similar projects that you have already done, then this discussion is going to be crisp. And but if your project requires some unique inputs, then this meeting is basically going to be helpful. Now, by the way, whatever the process, the outcome should of this initial project coordination has to be that the you establish the technical objectives. Okay. Now, what do you mean by objective? Establishing technical objectives. Now that technically, whether it is feasible or not, whether how it fits well into your organization. Well, it is not going to be the final version where, like they say, it is cast in concrete, there can be no changes. No, it is not like that. That it is flexible, and it could also accommodate changes. Now, what will be the second is, what will be the basic areas of performance responsibility, and the what the participants who will accept which kind of responsibility. Some tentative schedules. Now, I'm saying tentative. Some tentative schedules and budgets are also spelled out. Like because I'm talking about the initial project coordination, these are not finalized. These are all the initial on tentative and susceptible to change and could be modified. So you start with a tentative schedule, like in 3 months' time, I'm going to complete this module. In next 4 months' time, I'm completing this module. For example, when I'm talking about the library automation, like you can start with putting barcodes on all the books. So that will be completed within, let us say, 3 months. Now your library has, let's say, 30,000 books. Now putting barcodes physically on each of these books, printing the barcodes and putting them on each of these books, that will take time. So you decide that in 2 months' time, I'm going to put the barcodes on the 30,000 books. Next 1 month, I'm going to, let us say, organize the books into racks. or do a stock keeping of those 30,000 books. Next 1 month I'm going to organize them into various racks, like that. So it's going to be a very very tentative schedule, like in broad number of days. Again, you have to again broadly specify the objective of each module. This stage of completion, this much of money will be spent. This stage of completion, this. So these are all just basic landmarks. Okay. Now the point is, then each individual or the unit who is accepting this responsibility for one particular portion of a project, he has to agree to deliver. You cannot simply force someone to take responsibility and ask him and force him to deliver by a particular date. That is not going to work. So the responsibility center, be it a unit, be it an individual, he has to voluntarily take up the responsibility, understand what is to be done, and he should agree to deliver. And whenever your next project meeting is there, you could come up with a more detailed plan about how the responsibility will be assigned and what will be accomplished. This should be ready by the next plan meeting. Now, in this kind of a detailed plan, you can have descriptions of the required tasks, of the various budgets, of the schedules, and in the very next meeting, another. So these all these things, like the work details, the schedules, the budgets, and all that, the deliverables, the gaps, the all these things, they will become in each meeting. They will concretize and they will take shape. So in the next 3-4 meetings, everything will become concrete, and those things shape up, and those are the things you try to stick to those things, and these are the basically guides, landmarks for your project coordination. Now, the if this is how the project planning is done, as I said. Now, given this particular project plan, the approvals and the authorizations are also again a very important aspect of the project, because the project manager is authorized to direct initiatives. He has to spend money, obviously within his limits. Now he can request resources and personnel. He will see the project from starting to the completion. So at each stage he has to go for this senior management's approval, because that shows that the management is willing to fund and support this particular project. So the this process of preparing plans, it differs from one organization to the other. However, every project plan must have these things. Number one, like overview, the short summary of the project, and the scope of the project. Like, for example, the summary of the project, the library of XYZ University is going to be automated. Okay, this is the short summary. So it is directed, now this is directed to the Vice Chancellor, which is the top management, and it also might contain a statement of the goals of the project, the brief explanation of the relationship with the firm's objective, the description of the management structure. So all these things will be the part of the overview. Then the objective, which to be crisp objective in 3 to 4 crisp objectives are to be maintained in that plan. Then you have the general approach, where you will describe the managerial and the technical approaches to the work. The technical approach describes the relationship of the project with the available technology. What is your technology, current technology available? What are you trying to do with this project? These things. So that can be the technological issue. The subsection on the managerial approach, it takes note on any deviation from the routine procedure. For example, you ordinarily don't let out your work to some other third party, but now for this particular project approach, you need to hire subcontractors for some part of the work. So that is to be discussed in the general approach, the managerial approach. Then you have various contractual aspects, the aspects which are legally binding, like it includes a complete list and description of all the reporting requirements, like whom we have to disclose what. There are some mandatory disclosures, there are some voluntary disclosures, the customer supplied resources, the various liaising agreements, the various advisory committee, the project review committee, all the committees reports, if you want to cancellation, what should be the cancellation procedure, what should be the proprietary like copyright proprietary requirements, you all these things that has to be discussed in the contractual aspects. Then you talk about the schedules. It will outline the various schedules and the list of all the milestone events like 3 month, 4 month, 6 month, 8 months. These are my milestone. The master schedule is constructed from all these inputs. Then you talk about the resources that will be required. Now, what kind of resources? Number one is your capital resources. Number two is your, let us say, the I mean budget and expense. But these are to be details. For example, once is budget and resources. The second one is the monitoring and the control procedures. So it has to be put in place. Then you have the personal requirement, manpower, basically manpower requirement. It will talk about the special skills that is required for the project staff. Do you have that kind of a staff in your organization, or do you need to hire them? If you need to hire them, what should the training require? What should be the skill requirement? What should be the training requirement? What could be the recruiting problems? What could be the, is there any security clearance needed for your project? So all these things, what should be the workforce composition, like man to woman, or let us say to technically qualified and not so technically qualified, all these things, it has to be taken care of. Now it is really helpful to index your personal work that you are needing and the work schedule, so that you keep an eye on these numbers. Then you talk about the evaluation methods. Now your project has to be evaluated against the standard and methods established at the beginning of the project. So you cannot suddenly devise a new evaluation system and say that, well, our project is on time. Now this evaluation system has to be done at the project initiation level. So it will talk about a description about the project or the procedure that you are going to follow for monitoring, for collecting, for storing, and for evaluating the history of the project. And these things you will not change once the project has started. There could be, depending on the nature of your project, there could be several potential problems. Some of these potential problems you can envisage and you can be prepared for them. Some of the potential problems you can never envisage, and then probably are not easy to be dealt with. If I give you an example of, let us say, the case of let us say the POSCO, the POXO, the Russian, the South Korean giant, the POSCO steel plant that was planned. It's a big, was touted as the biggest investment project in Asia to be done in Odisha. So they required a lot of land to be acquired in the rural areas, and they have spent, the project was touted to be around 40,000 crores. But then, and they have invested a huge amount of money in acquiring of lands. But then there were so many problems in the acquiring of lands that ultimately the project has to be, because there was protest from the local people, there were protests from the political parties, there were changes in the rules and regulations. So these are the there were other potential problems. Some could be envisaged, some could not be envisaged, and because of that, ultimately the project had to be called off by the parent company, and it could not take off in Odisha. So what I'm trying to tell you is some of the potential problems could be dealt with, and some of them are difficult to be dealt with because they cannot be predicted. Now the next phase is your system integration. So in system integration, what we do is, it is basically includes technical specialists in the project who is capable of performing the role of integrating the technical disciplines to achieve your customer's objective. Now the system integration basically deals with the three aspects of your of the project. That is, one is the performance, that is the system design, the reliability of your system, the maintainability, the repairability. Obviously these are not actually standalone things. The performance, these are all interrelated things. Now the performance of your project depends on the design aspect of your project, and how well you can make changes to your system design. That will tell you how well performing your project is. Then you talk about effectiveness. Now the objective is to design the individual components in such a way that the performance is in a optimal manner. Now how can you achieve that? You can achieve you require no component performance specification unless necessary to meet one or more system requirements. So every component requirement should be traceable to one or more system requirements. Now design components to optimize system performance and not the performance of a subsystem. So if you are talking about one module of a design, and if you don't talk about improving the sub system of a particular module, you talk about improving the performance of the entire design. Then you have the cost, which talks about this. Cost will be a design parameter. Now cost can be accumulated in several areas. For example, if you change the design, there will be added design cost. If you compromise on a particular component, then the cost will be reduced. So added design cost may yield decreased production cost. Decreased production cost may trade off against the unit cost of material. So all these things which are linked like a chain, they have to be taken care of while we're talking about this cost issue. So when I'm talking about the system integration, the performance, the effectiveness, and the cost, these aspects have to be kept in mind. Now, then you talk about this sorting out this project. Now, in order to be successfully complete a project, now all you have to do is the various activities of the project has to be delineated and coordinated. Now, the project's resources, they have to be available whenever and wherever they are needed, in the correct amounts they are to be there, and there should not be any stoppage or slippage due to the non-availability of the resources. Now while we are sorting out the project, what we do is we basically list and break down. There are several tasks in a project. Now you can list and break down each of these tasks into subtasks, further subtask, and the least bit of the lowest unit of the task. So you list out the task and then you break down the task. For example, suppose you talk about, while you are talking about the library automation system, suppose I was talking about the putting the code on the books. So that can be broken down into 5 or 6 different tasks. Usually it has been seen that in a project there could be some 20 to 30 tasks, and each of these tasks could be further broken down into 7 to 8 tasks depending on the nature of your project. So the number of tasks that you can break them down is many. It runs into hundreds of tasks. Now, there are some tasks which can be done sequentially, that one has to be completed, and only then you can take up the other tasks. So you can do them, some of the tasks can only be done sequentially, and then some other tasks which can be done simultaneously. For example, if you are putting the barcode on the books and you are storing the books, they cannot be done simultaneously. It has to be sequential job. For example, you the book from the library and from the shelf, put the barcode, enter the barcode in the automated system on the ERP, and then classify them, and then you put them back on the rack where it is meant to be put. So it is a sequential. But simultaneous, what you can do, for example, many books you have already barcoded them and entered them in and classified them. Now, once the classification is done, suppose class A books can be put in class B books, class C books. So the various class of books could be put in the shelf, identified for them simultaneously. But so now you have to list the activities into sequential and the simultaneous ones, and then you prepare the hierarchical networks. I am talking about a very simplistic project here. For a heavy engineering aspect, or for a project, this could be very complicated. This preparation of these hierarchical networks. Now, the network breakdown structure and responsibility charts come in handy while we talk about this WBS. Now, this the technical name that goes for this thing is the WBS system, the work breakdown structure, and the linear responsibility chart. Now, see, here I'm showing you the WBS chart, a typical WBS chart. Now, what is the WBS chart? You might be aware about the organizational chart, where you show the hierarchy of the organization. Now, if you replace the organizational structure with the replace the personnel with the activities, then that actually becomes a WBS chart. So this is how the typical WBS charts looks like, and these are on the left hand side. I'm showing you the various kinds of organization responsibility, and on the y-axis, I mean the right side, I'm showing you the breakdown structure, work breakdown structure. Like you break down the work into various subtasks, and then you assign them to various locations or various responsibility centers. And then here in the organizational level, who at the responsibility centers, how they're going to interact with each other, and how the responsibility center will take care of the modules of tasks is represented here. This kind of a structure is known as the WBS and the responsibility chart. Now, what could be the steps? The steps for designing any WBS, that as we have just discussed, break it down into final levels, make up the work statement to include the inputs, the specification reference, the contractual stipulations, the end result, list out the vendors, contracts, identify the end item specifications, the resources needed, list out the personnel and organization responsible for each task, and the cost requirement of each of them. So, and once you do this WBS and organizational responsibility chart, then your project management can be done really effectively. So, I hope with this you have understood the concept of project management and how we can achieve that through efficiency, through effectiveness, through list cost, and deliver it on time. Thank you.